Hola clase, es la profesora señora Dikak. Yo quiero hacer un video muy simple para ustedes porque esa parte de su capítulo es un poco más difícil. Entonces yo tengo cosas en la pizarra para ayudarte. Es un video muy simple y ojalá que es muy corto. Um, Hi guys, I just wanted to create a little video for you to explain one of the processes in Spanish that tends to be really confusing for people. So I am hoping that maybe this will help you guys as we go into the next part. So in your chapter, the next thing that we're about to start is telling the time. So on the board behind me, I have written up some helpful notes and things as we go through so that I can try to explain things to you before you attempt it. This part has not been assigned to you, so it will be coming to you soon. I do need to apologize just in case I am at my mom's business because I've been helping her. So while you guys have been away and school has been out, I've been working for my mother. However, I'm in the back office and there is a printer copier in here, and so there may be people coming in and out from time to time. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up. Okay, so getting into things now. Dar la hora es aquí en la pizarra. Entonces en inglés significa telling the time. When we are telling the time in Spanish, we are going to be using the verb ser. So I put this up here just to remind you what the verb ser is. So these are the 5 conjugations that we most commonly use for ser. So we have soy, eres, es, somos, and son. And I put the English beside it so that you guys could remember what it means, just in case it's not right there in your head. So when we are thinking about telling the time in Spanish, okay, there's a couple of things that you guys need to know, okay? So over here, I have written for you las preguntas y respuestas, the questions and the answers that we typically use the most when we're talking about questioning and answering to ask and answer the questions about time. Okay, so the first one is the most basic, and that is ¿Qué hora es? So what time is it? All right. There are 2 possible responses to this question, as you can see right here. So we have son las and then fill in the blank, or we have es la and fill in the blank. Both of these answers mean the same thing, which is why I wrote it this way. Both of those mean it is blank, and then it would be o'clock because we're talking about time. So for instance, if you were giving that answer, it would be it is 5 o'clock, for instance, okay? So then the second part that I put up there for you, this was actually at the bottom of the notes page for telling the time, is the next question, and this is ¿A qué hora es? And then fill in the blank. So this question means at what time is something. So if you wanted to know like what time you needed to show up to a party or to somebody's house, right? You would say, ¿A qué hora es la fiesta? At what time is the party? ¿A qué hora voy a tu casa? At what time do I go to your house? Okay, so those would be the types of questions that we're going to use this for. Okay, there are 2 ways to answer this as well, and I wrote them right here underneath for you guys. We have a la, fill in the blank, or a las, fill in the blank. Now, both of these questions right now are really, really simple. They don't seem very complicated, but it gets a little confusing because there are 2 ways to respond to both of these questions, and I'm going to explain why. Maybe you've already figured it out. Maybe you're already seeing the pattern. But what we have going on here is we have our plural verb son, right? And we have our singular verb es. So depending upon what time it is that we're saying it is, that's going to change which of these responses we're going to use. Okay, so up here I have drew you guys a very lovely clock, as you can admire my lovely art skills. So right here we have the regular numbers on a clock, which we know the clock goes this way. We tend to tell time only using 12 hours instead of military time, so the 24. So that's what I've represented on the clock right here for you guys. Going back really basic, thinking about like first, second, third grade, when you're learning to tell time and you're playing with the big fake clocks, okay? What I wanted to remind you guys of real quick, just so that while I'm drawing this, you won't get confused, because I know we tend to use digital clocks more than we use the older fashioned with the hands that actually go around. So if you have a hand that is long and skinny, this is your minute hand. And if you have one that is shorter, that is your hour hand. Okay, so for instance, on the clock right now that I've drawn for you guys, it is showing 2 o'clock. Okay, so whether that's 2 in the morning or 2 in the afternoon, who knows? We just know that it's 2 o'clock. Okay, so just putting it really basic to get everybody on the same page for a second. I'm going to move this a little bit closer. Okay. So when we go to tell time in Spanish, there's a couple of phrases that I thought would be useful, helpful for you guys. Okay, so that's what this part is right here. These were actually in the notes section too that you guys looked at, so you do have them somewhere, and hopefully you did take notes on them as well. But just as a refresher, okay? So the useful phrases that we have are en punto, which is on the dot. So for instance, this time right here would be on the dot because our minute hand is straight up on the 12, okay? We would have the hour hand also joining right there, okay? So that would be on the dot. So anytime you want to say an hour on the dot, okay, that's how you would say it. You would give your time. So you would say, like if somebody asked you the question, ¿Qué hora es? And you wanted to say, to answer that question, it is 12 o'clock, you would say, son las 12 en punto. Okay? It's 12 o'clock on the dot, meaning that it's not a minute after, it's not 2 minutes after, it's on the dot. Okay. So then we have corto and we have media. Corto is a half of an hour, corto is 15 minutes of an hour. Media is half of an hour, so 30 minutes. Okay, and then we have 3 times, and we actually use these in English already. So it's not anything new, but I just wanted to show you guys what we tend to break these apart as, because we have 2, if you noticed, that mean PM. Okay, so we have de la mañana, which would be our AM times, so anywhere from like midnight to noon is typically what we think of as morning. And then we have de la tarde, which is PM, and this would be our afternoon, as in noon to about 4 p.m., because this is your early afternoon, your early evening. Okay, and then de la noche would be our later evening time. So this would also be PM, and it would be 5 p.m. to 11:59 p.m. if you want to get very technical about it, which is why I wrote it this way for you guys. Okay. So that gets us through our useful phrases. Let's actually practice doing a few times just so that you can see what it looks like. Okay. So if somebody asked, ¿Qué hora es? They asked you that right now, and I looked at the time right this moment. I would say it is 3:40 in English, okay? So if this is my time, 3:40 p.m. in English, in Spanish, to answer this question, I'm going to use this response because we only use es if we're talking about 1 o'clock. And we only use es because 1 is singular, okay? All the rest of these numbers are plural technically, okay? Might seem like a weird concept, but if I hold up 1 finger, that is 1 finger only, whereas 2, I start getting into plural. Do you see what I mean? Okay, so if it's 3:40, when I respond to this, I'm going to say, son las 3:40. Oops, 40. Got my spelling wrong going on. 40. And then I could leave it at this, son las 3:40, or I could be more specific and say de la tarde. Okay, so this would be a full Spanish response to ¿Qué hora es? What time is it? Okay, something else that I could do, particularly because my time is past the halfway mark, right? In Spanish, and this is something that we do in English as well, but in Spanish it's a little more confusing than how we tend to think of it in English. Another way that I could write this answer is I could go to the hour ahead, which would be 4 o'clock, right? And I could subtract 20 minutes, okay? So in order to say it's 3:40, another way that's a little bit easier and more common, this is what you're gonna hear more often, okay, is they're gonna say, son las 4 menos, okay, this means minus, menos 20 minutos, okay? It is 4 minus 20 minutes. So in English, we might interpret that to it's 20 to 4 is the more common expression. So we do this in English, we just don't think of it in quite the same manner because we don't take subtracting into the equation. So this is how we form the general question to ask for the time and the general response. So for every single time except for one, okay, we're going to use this form, son las, and then fill in the blank. If it's 1 o'clock, okay, then we're going to say es la una, okay? We would say that even if it's 1:30. We would say es la 1:30, all right? But the second that you start forming your responses like this, where you go to the hour ahead, if you wanted to say, like, for instance, it was 1:50, then you would say son las 2 menos 10, okay? So that would be when we would change back to the plural because we went to the hour ahead. Otherwise, any time that you're talking about one, it is es la. Okay, so then the second question, the a qué hora es, at what time is it, okay? We could respond to this very, very similarly to what we just did here, okay? The difference here is a la is referring to, once again, our 1 o'clock. This is our singular. So if you think of a la as being similar to es la, okay, we only use a la if we're talking about at 1 o'clock. Like, I need to go to somebody's house at 1 o'clock. I need to go and have lunch at 1 o'clock, okay? That would be the only time we'd use a la. Otherwise, for all other responses, we're gonna use a las, and then fill in the blank with whatever it is. Okay, so to do this very simply, all right, if the question was, ¿A qué hora es la fiesta? At what time is the party? Okay, I'm just gonna finish this question so that we can see the full thought. Okay, ¿A qué hora es la fiesta? Now, if I wanted to say that the party is at 5 p.m., okay, I'm gonna say a las 5 de la noche. A las 5 de la noche. So this is an option of how you can say it. This is the most simplified version because it's not actually a true full sentence, but you did give the answer to the question. Okay, the way to actually make this a full sentence in Spanish, because you will have to do this in your activities, okay, is to take this information from this sentence to make it into a full sentence, or from this question. So we're going to say, la fiesta es a las 5 de la noche. And that would be a full Spanish sentence to answer the question, ¿A qué hora es la fiesta? Because we give more information with it. We say what the thing is that we're talking about. So obviously we're trying to decide the starting time of the party. So it's just helpful if you put the full thing in the response. Okay, so this word by word translation